Kling 2.5 Turbo launched a few weeks ago with some bold claims. Better emotions, smoother physics, advanced camera control, all while being 75% cheaper than their previous model. I've spent the last few weeks testing it, and in this video we're going to dive into what actually works, what fails, and whether it gives you Hollywood level results without the Hollywood budget. And here's why this matters if you're wanting to build a filmmaker brand and audience outside of the traditional studio system. The physics upgrade means action scenes that actually look real. The emotion improvements mean characters people actually care about. And the price drop means you can afford to keep testing until you get both right. That's the trifecta for building an audience: quality, volume, and speed. This update purports to give you all three. So here's the plan. I tested Kling 2.5 across 4 critical areas that actually matter for storytelling. Can it handle emotion? Do the physics look real? Can you control the camera? And does it follow your prompts? For each one, I'll show you what worked, what broke, and how it stacks up against other popular models such as Veo 3 and Wan 2.5. Let's get into it. Now let's first start off by looking at some of the official release notes for Kling 2.5 Turbo. And I'm not going to read through everything here, but there are 2 things that are very important that I want to call out immediately. And that's point number 1 and point number 2. So let's look at point number 1, better prompt adherence and temporal control. The new model comes with significant improvement in prompt adherence. By optimizing text structure and internal processing architecture, it can deeply parse complex instructions that involve multi-steps and casual relationships rather than just single actions. And this, my friends, is game-changing, as you'll see in the examples that I'm going to show you. In essence, this allows users to prompt more progression of video content, including character interactions and scene transitions. With this improvement in temporal logic and control over creative expression, static images can be transformed into dynamic videos with coherent narratives and rich storylines. So basically, we're moving away from just simple prompts to where you tell the character to walk from the screen from right to left. Number 2, it's more fluid and stable in dynamic scenes. To generate more dynamic movement with larger range of motion, the new model incorporates advanced training methods such as reinforcement learning and strategically adjusts the distribution of training data. This enables the model to better learn and simulate real-world physical dynamics, making it capable of producing highly dynamic motions and camera movements that were previously difficult to achieve. As a result, dynamics are improved while ensuring the fluidity and stability, effectively avoiding common issues in complex dynamics, such as breakdowns or distortions. And again, this is going to be very apparent to you when I demonstrate the difference between the Kling 2.5 Turbo model, which is the new model, versus the old flagship model, which was Kling 2.1 Master. And again, there's some other data on this page that you can look through, and these are Kling's own internal metrics. But according to artificial analysis, as of this video, which is October 11th, their text-to-video leaderboard still has Kling 2.5 Turbo ranked as number 1. Now, before we get into the testing and the results, let's first look at the mechanics. Now, right now we're at Kling's official website, and if you want to get started with Kling for free, you can find the link for Kling to sign up in the description of this video, and you can also look for the link in the comments. As you can see, the new model is the Veo 2.5 Turbo, with the previous models being 2.1 and 2.1 Master, which is going to be the flagship model prior to this new release. And you'll also note that not only does it do text to video, but it also allows for the start frame. Now, currently it does not have the end frame option just yet, but I'm positive that's just around the corner. In terms of credit, this is a vast improvement over the 2.1 model, where you can generate 10 seconds of 1080p video for 50 credits, and 5 seconds of 1080p video is only 25 credits. If you were to switch this to 2.1 Master, it would be 5 seconds for 100 credits and 200 credits for 10 seconds of video. And to be honest with you, just based on what I've been testing that I'm going to show you in this video, I really don't see the point to go to the previous model, other than if you were working on something that required you to use the start and end frame. So with that out of of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into the testing. Now, for my first test, I was very interested in seeing how the raw model works, and so I decided to go with text to video. And I have to honestly say that the quality of the text to video can now compete with pretty much any site that's licensing B-roll that was created by actual humans with human characters. It's just gotten that good. But obviously there are some issues, and we'll get into those. But I'm happy to report there aren't that many. And just as a reminder, I'm going to start off by comparing Kling 2.5 Turbo with Kling 2.1 Master. They're each going to get 3 rolls, and I'm going to select the one that I thought was the best out of the 3 for both models. And with this test, we're wanting to confirm whether or not this model does handle emotions a lot better than the previous model. And the prompt I used was this: medium close-up of a woman in her 20s sitting on the edge of her bed in a dimly lit bedroom. She holds a phone in her hand, staring at the screen with a devastated expression. Her eyes glisten with tears that haven't fallen yet. Now, I'm not going to read the entire prompt, but the part that I read was the gist of this. Her eyes glisten with tears that haven't fallen yet, and the look on her face that has a devastated expression. And so I ran the prompt 3 times, and the first one was an obvious fail because there's 3 hands shown in the screen. And the second prompt that I ran wasn't bad at all. I actually really liked that version, but the one that I actually liked the best and selected as the winner for this was the actual teardrop that falls down her face. And as we look at this scene, I would say Kling 2.5 Turbo nailed this to the T. If you have a scene to where this woman's boyfriend just broke up with her and she's trying to maybe save the relationship, she's texting him frantically, she's crying, she's like, what's going on? This is all of a sudden. I think you have a very good use case with this scene. Now, for testing this with Kling 2.1 Master, I will say the model did follow the prompt in terms of having her eyes glisten with tears that haven't fallen yet, but the woman does not look as dramatic in terms of a devastated expression like she does in Kling 2.5 Turbo. And again, I ran this 3 different times, and out of the 3, the one that I said that came out the best in terms of the 2.1 Master model was the 3rd roll during this testing. I mean, it does look like she's been crying, and it does look like that she's sad, but again, if we compare the 2 side by side in terms of having that devastated expression, to me, Kling 2.5 Turbo is the clear winner here. Performing the same test with Veo 3, we actually do get a very dynamic range in the acting of the actress, and it does follow the prompt where it says her eyes glisten with tears that haven't fallen yet. But honestly, after getting that generation from Kling 2.5 Turbo to where a tear did stream down her cheek, that was a cherry on the top for me in terms of making the scene more dynamic and more emotional. So definitely not bad when it comes to Veo 3. These scenes could absolutely be used. Let's see what Wan 2.5 produced. Now, Wan 2.5 did a great job of this as well in terms of actually having tears stream down her face and displaying that range of emotion. But the thing that I noticed about both Veo 3 and Wan 2.5 is that the character just holds the phone, and oftentimes they're not even looking at the phone screen itself. It's just they're looking off into the distance. Whereas with Kling 2.5 Turbo, you actually have the woman typing on the screen and the scene is not as static. So between Kling 2.5 Turbo, Veo 3, and Wan 2.5, they all did an excellent job, but in terms of the scene being more dynamic, more movement, and the character not being as stiff, I'm going to award this round to Kling 2.5 Turbo. Now let's move on to the second test. Does the physics upgrade mean action scenes that actually look real? Now, as a Kling AI creative partner, I actually had access to the Kling 2.5 Turbo model long before it was actually released on September 23rd. In fact, I had actually been working on that Kling 2.5 cyberpunk music video that you saw on the channel for a little bit. So if you saw that production, there were a number of scenes in there testing out the physics of this model, and I think they worked out wonderfully. So if you want to see more examples of that, which would be heavy on the physics and the camera motion, then be sure to click the card on your screen to see a more in-depth example. Now, I know pretty much everyone watching this video is going to be interested in how fight scenes are evolving over these AI models, because again, most of us want to be able to create kick-ass fight scenes in our AI cinematic films. For this, I used an image that I generated in Midjourney, and I'm using the style of anime, which has a bit of a watercolor style to it. Now, even though this 2.5 model has taken great strides in terms terms of making much more coherent action scenes with the physics, it's sadly still not there quite just yet. But, however, it is a vast improvement over the Kling 2.1 master model. And let me just show you the 3 examples that I got from Kling 2.5 Turbo, and then compare it to Kling 2.1 master to show you the clear improvement and the move in the right direction regarding action scenes. So first up, Kling 2.5 Turbo. So as you can clearly see, there's still a lot of morphing going on. Her sword disappears at one time, and then she disappears at some point. I do like how the sound effects came out. And in terms of action, this is how violent I would want my action scenes to be. But in terms of usability and believability, this would not be something that I would be able to use as an action sequence in an anime AI narrative film. Now, in terms of the Kling 2.1 master model, none of these results would be usable whatsoever. As you can see, it's just morphing all over the place. The model is confused, and it really doesn't know what to do with the prompt. But the main purpose of this was to demonstrate how well the newer model, which is the turbo model, again, we've not gotten to the pro model just yet. We'll see how that performs once it's been released. But in terms of the previous model 2.1 master, this is a clear step in the right direction. So ultimately, I would give Kling 2.5 Turbo and Kling 2.1 master a fail, with the only redeeming factor being that 2.5 Turbo looks a lot better than 2.1 master, but that's about it. Running this prompt with Veo 3, the characters do a much better job of holding up in terms of there not being a lot of morphing as the action takes place, but that's mostly due to the scene not being as dynamic to begin with. There are a couple of things that's going on with this scene. In almost every single generation, the sword that the monster is holding disappears, and then in even one instance, it grows some claws that weren't even there to begin with. And then for the most part, it's just a female battering the monster, and all he's doing is blocking. The monster's not really even making an attempt to fight back. So although the scene is much more coherent due to the sword of the monster disappearing and then it just standing there getting wailed on the entire time, I wouldn't see myself using this anywhere, not even for an X post. Now, something very interesting happened with WAN 2.5 when I tried to run the same prompt and image on the Higgsfield platform. All 3 generations that I ran failed, and the only message I got was, looks like this content may go against our guidelines. Let's try something different. Now, I have no idea what that's all about. I even went into the Discord server to bring it up. Someone mentioned, well, maybe because the female looks like a kid, maybe it didn't generate because of that. And my reply was, well, I was able to generate all 3 generations on Veo 3, which would likely filter it if it was an issue. And I did it with no issues and no flags. And also, there's nothing in the prompt that would indicate that the character is a kid. And we can't blame this on WAN 2.5 because, as we all know, you can do some pretty nasty things with WAN because it's literally uncensored. So the block is coming from Higgsfield, and since this is literally the only place I'm using WAN 2.5 at the moment, I just went ahead and moved on. So testing this with Kling 2.5 Turbo, Veo 3, and then the none result from WAN 2.5 via Higgsfield, I would rate all 3 of these as a fail because, again, other than just pointing out what the model is doing on something like X, I would not use anything that either of these models produced as bragging rights. Now let's look at how well you can actually control the camera. And for this test, this is another Midjourney image in anime style. And from this prompt, the main thing I was interested in is the actual camera controls, to where I told it to do a dramatic Dutch angle, 25-degree tilt clockwise, which is slowly rotating to increase the Dutch angle to a 35-degree. Now, out of the 3 tests that I did with Kling 2.5 Turbo, they all executed the Dutch angle tilt. The problem was just that there were things added to the generation that were clear hallucinations. If you look at her necklace there, you see the skull appearing. And I say things, but honestly, that was the only thing happening with the first 2 generations. There's actually nothing else weird going on in the background. Now, with the third roll, the only issue that I have with that one is that her face looks a bit frozen when she looks off screen. And I would expect expect her hair to be moving a little bit more. That's kind of being frozen in place as well. And that probably could have been fixed if I added something to the prompt, like her hair is flowing, you know, indicating a breeze or something like that. But the prompt does exactly what I asked it to. We're getting that Dutch angle. This was a clear win in that regard. Now, with the 3 tries with Kling 2.1 Master, they all pretty much turned out very badly. As you can see, in one generation, the scene just morphs into something completely different, which is not what I asked for. In the second generation, it does perform the Dutch tilt, but then the character starts doing more things, like she sits up straight, and then you see some things starting to form behind her, which are again clear hallucinations. And it also has her talking, which I did not prompt for. But with these newer models, they don't have the negative prompt box. I think that stopped at Kling 1.6, and for some reason it has not been brought forward just yet, so we've got that to deal with. And again, with the third roll, that was just a complete disaster with her hands, and then there's smoke, and then it looks like a wooden throne forms behind her. So again, the model is hallucinating a lot in that third roll. And if we compare what we did with 2.5 versus 2.1, Kling 2.5 Turbo is definitely the clear winner in this testing. Now, in trying the same prompt and the same image with Veo 3 via free pick, because I actually ran out of Veo 3 credits, as I mentioned in a previous video, I'm not subscribed to Veo 3 anymore. And what's interesting is that I almost considered resubscribing to Veo 3 via the Flow platform, because after I ran those few tests, I only had 230 credits left, and since it's 100 credits each, that would have only allowed me 2 more videos. But I'm glad I held off, because as you can see, it says Google blocked this request due to moderation rules. So I'll say it before and I'll say it again, thank God for the Chinese models. I know America is on this kick about being first in AI, but I will go on record to say that America will never overtake the Chinese when it comes to AI, because of exactly what you're seeing right here. Taking the same image and prompt and using it with 2.5 in Higgsfield, pretty much every generation had some morphing going on. The Dutch angle actually happens, but then they've got things in the background to where it looks like those things behind her are her tail, which is not what's supposed to take place. And then the red stuff behind her looks like a curtain that's blowing in the wind. And then another thing that Juan does is it saturates your image. I've seen that a lot in some of the other testing that I've done. And if we go back to the original Kling 2.5 version, you see that the colors hold up and it looks exactly like the image that I gave it. I don't know why 2.5 does that. They definitely need to work on continuing to improve that model. So out of the 3, Kling 2.5, Veo 3, which would not generate, and 2.5 that just had a bunch of different things going on that were not expected, Kling 2.5 wins this round. Now, this next test is something that got me very excited, because now we're starting to introduce something into the prompt called multi-step. And if we go back to Kling's official release notes, it says the prompt can now deeply parse complex instructions that involve multiple steps and casual relationships. So I'm going to caveat that by saying the following. I'm not positive if other models like Veo 3 and 2.5 can actually pull this off. So this may not be a straightforward test, but I can tell you that Kling 2.5 Turbo absolutely does deliver on this. And so with this test, I'm doing text to video once again. And the important part about this prompt is the following. It says the camera moves naturally with them, slight organic shake and sway. And that's just to indicate that this is a handheld shot. But that wasn't the most important part to this. The part that we want to focus on is the multi-step instructions, to where it says she points at the produce stand on the right. He leans in to look. They exchange a few words. They pause briefly to examine tomatoes. She picks up one. They discuss it, then continue walking. Now, in any of my previous generations, I've not tried multi-step with any other models, so this may in fact be a new concept. We're definitely going to put it to the test. Now, in looking at my actual generations, it looks like I only ran this prompt once, and it pretty much nailed it the first time. And I think that was just due to me changing some of the settings, and it just actually rolled one, and I walked off and went and did something and came back and saw that, hey, it did exactly what I asked for the most part, and I'll point some of that out. So in full transparency, I did not run 3 prompts within this 2.5 batch. So if we look at the actual generation, they walk. Now, they don't actually show where she points to the tomato first, but it does in fact show her picking up the tomato, him leaning in, and them discussing it, and then continuing to walk forward, which was very important. And again, that may be due to the fact that this is only a 10-second clip, so the AI may have had to just decide what it wanted to actually accomplish. So again, we don't get the part where he leans in to look, they exchange a few words, but it does do the fact of them pausing briefly to examine tomatoes. She picks up one, they discuss it, and then continue walking. Guys, this is a huge improvement when it comes to being able to have dynamic scenes rather than just something very static to where the camera just follows them as they're walking down this path in this farmer's market. Now, I did run this 3 times with Kling 2.1 Master, and what's interesting is that for the first couple of rolls, it seems like the couples were actually pissed off at one another. Like, you know, she picks up this tomato and then they look at each other, and it looks like she's getting really sassy with him about something. I mean, they're not even holding hands, so, you know, maybe he actually didn't want to come on this trip, and she was like, I insist. For the second roll, they are holding hands, but, you know, she kind of gives him a talking to. And of course, we don't have the part where she picks up the tomato. None of that's going on. But as you can see, they're clearly pissed at one another for some reason. And then for the third roll, again, she picks up something, but, you know, that doesn't look like a tomato. They're actually stopping by the tomatoes, and he's clearly further ahead of the tomato bin. So all 3 of those tests with Kling 2.1 Master were an absolute fail. So in terms of the generation being as close to the prompt as it could possibly be, and the fact that we didn't get anything close to what we asked for with the 2.1 Master model, Kling 2.5 Turbo is the obvious winner with multi-step prompt instructions. Let's see if Veo 3 and WAN 2.5 can handle this as well. Taking the same text-to-video prompt into Veo 3 via FreePic, all 3 of the videos that generated were a failure because characters were simply doing magic. They would point, and then magically a tomato would appear in their hand. I mean, it happened in the first one, it happened in the second one, where it magically appeared in the woman's hand this time instead of both their hands. And then in the third one, the woman just points in a direction. She's not even pointing at tomatoes, and the guy just looks at her and says, that's cool, but I don't have my wallet, so no tomatoes for you today, and they keep walking on. I mean, the guy doesn't even look at the tomatoes. Back in Higgsfield using WAN 2.5, all 3 of these were pretty much a disaster as well. And the thing that I want to make sure that we don't get away from, which is what we're testing for, is the multi-step instructions. Remember, the woman is supposed to point at a produce stand on the right, the guy is supposed to lean in and look, they exchange a few words, they pause briefly to examine tomatoes, she picks one up, they discuss it, then continue walking. And so it's safe to say, as I hypothesized, that this new multi-step prompting technique is something very new, and it seems that Kling 2.5 is on the forefront with this innovation. So again, when it comes to Kling 2.5 Turbo, Veo 3, and WAN 2.5, Kling 2.5 Turbo is the only generation that gets this at least 95% right. And once again, it's obvious that Veo 3 and WAN 2.5 cannot handle multi-step instructions when it comes to prompting at this particular moment. So what are you guys' thoughts on this deep dive testing with Kling 2.5 Turbo? Are we in fact moving in the right direction when it comes to AI narrative filmmaking, moving past just camera movement and animating your images to being able to actually tell the AI what you want it to do specifically? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below this video. And if you're someone actually using and testing AI extensively like I do and want to have a passive way to be able to pay for all of these tools, then I just released a new lesson in the AI Cinematographer's Midjourney Playbook, and this is part of the Lazy Way to Monetize AI Filmmaking module that's actually going to show you a realistic and practical way to monetize your AI film productions. So if you've got a lot of subscriptions and you want to be able to fund those subscriptions without reaching into your own pockets, then scan the QR code on your screen or click below the video and check out the link pinned in the first comment. And if you want to see an even more in-depth example of everything that I've run through in this video, but focusing on image to video video and AI cinematography, then be sure to check out the video on your screen. As always, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so that you let YouTube know that you enjoy videos like this and want to be alerted to the next one. Once again, my name is Paul Donis Maximus. Thanks for checking out this video. Please join me in the next one.